Tori Petry out here at Lions Camp presented by Rocket Mortgage, and today the guest out at Lions Camp is Breer from MMQB. You guys were out here watching practice. Tell me what you were looking for.
Yeah, I think anytime you go into a camp where there's a new coach, you're sort of looking for the way the practice is being run. And the thing that sticks out to me is like this does look very New England to me. You see the intensity, you see the coaches are very vocal and louder than they probably were when Jim Caldwell was here, and then you see the hitting. I like and I know they weren't going full speed, but they were running the Nutcracker drill, which I hadn't seen since high school. So it was kind of cool to see that. And I know a big part of it for I think every coach coming in is sort of establishing this is what we're going to be, this is our expectations, and I think you can see the way that they drafted, how big the team is physically now. You can see what they want to be, and I think there was more of that during the first padded practice today.
Certainly. I mean, it's always good to see those first padded practices out there, and we got to see some of that today. Now, a lot of people have talked about what this Matt Patricia defense will look like. What do you think the biggest thing they need to improve in 2018 is to have some success?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing about, anyone coming from that tree is that they try to build teams that can morph from one thing to the next every single week. And it's something that looks simple and seems easy to explain, but it's difficult to pull off. I think one of the things that you're going to look for is they're going to try to be really versatile on both sides. And so I think you see that with some of the guys cross-training at different positions. And on defense, I think that's, you'll eventually see that, I think, with Ziggy Ansah. You see that with a guy like Diggs who's playing corner and safety. I think Killebrew is another one of those guys who can play multiple different spots. You're almost looking for, guys who are, it's not position free, but kind of, able to do different things, which will enable the coaches to do the things globally that they want to do, which is match up with teams from week to week. And so it's sort of like I guess it's kind of a bland global answer, but like I think that's what they're looking for is like how many things can each of the guys do? And there are some guys here who are capable of doing those things.
Kalen Kaler is here with you as well. We talked a little bit on a podcast that people will hear a little bit later, but we talked about that run game and the improvement that needs to be made there. Do you think they have the pieces in place to do that?
It depends on the offensive line staying healthy. I know everybody wants to talk about Kerryon Johnson and Amir Abdullah and LeGarrette Blount. Like it's like sort of a boring answer, but they've invested so much on the offensive line, spending a first-round pick on Taylor Decker, spending a first-round pick on Frank Ragnow, spending a lot of money on Ricky Wagner. They've really poured resources into that group up front. And, if they're going to run the ball well, you look down at Dallas, and Dallas has had a couple of really good backs when they've been rolling. They had DeMarco Murray in 14, they had Ezekiel Elliott in 16. But the basis of what they did was behind those five guys. And the same way Dallas built their line, you can see the Lions building their line that way. And so, part of it's going to be on Kerryon Johnson. Part of it's going to be on Amir Abdullah. But if you really want to look from a resource standpoint where they've really invested, they've invested in the offensive line. And last year they weren't able to stay healthy up there. So if they can stay healthy up there, it looks like a big, strong, tough group that's going to be able to run the ball. And that'll make Matt Stafford that much better. But the key, of course, is staying healthy. And I think anybody who watched the Lions last year knows that's not a given.
All right, you guys have visited a lot of NFC North training camps so far. This was the last one that you guys had on your list for the NFC North.
Yeah, I've been to all.
Where do the Lions fit in that group?
I still think that the Vikings are probably the most talented team. And they've made it very clear to their players, and not that they're saying it, but they made it very clear to their players through their actions that we're in a championship window. They spend and build an unprecedented contract for Kirk Cousins. They go out and they roll the dice on Sheldon Richardson. Those are things you do when you feel like you're right there. And I've had people ask me, do you think the Vikings, is there any way the Vikings don't win the division? Well, they're still number 12 in Green Bay. And if he stays healthy, I don't think there's any way you can rule him out. They've had some change there, new coordinators on both sides of the ball, new general manager. And they look talented. And so I still think those are the top two teams, but the Lions have been knocking on the door the last 2 years. They got in the playoffs in 2016. Last year, they were a couple of bounces away from making it again. And I really think, one of the things you're going to see, Stafford's been playing for Jim Bob Cooter for a while now, and you sort of see like the prime for quarterbacks, the math on quarterbacks has changed, where guys seem to be hitting their best years when they get into their 30s at that position. And so I think there are a confluence of things coming together where, I mean, they're going to be a tough out for Minnesota. They're going to be a tough out for Green Bay. And the division could be one of the best in football. And I think Chicago's frisky too. Like, I mean, with what Matt Nagy's going to do offensively, I mean, it's not inconceivable that we could be looking at this 4 months from now and a team finishing in last place is 8-8. Like, I think it could wind up being the strongest division in football. And so that doesn't help the Lions. But if they can get into the tournament, it would help them then.
Well, I think it'll be a fun year to watch this division, no doubt. Thank you so much, Albert, for your input. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed your time at Lions Camp.
All right, thanks, Tori.
For DetroitLions.com, I'm Tori Petry.